Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. I'm really excited to bring on my next guest. I apologize. Oh my God, I'm 22 minutes late. I am a horrible host. I am really, really a horrible host. I am new at this. That's why I'm a folk singer and not an actual TV host. Danneel and Jensen Ackles are in the waiting room, and I'm so excited to speak with them.
Hey.
I can get them. Hi, guys. How are you? I am so sorry. I am a sucky host. I get so wrapped up in talking. I'm really, really sorry. And I know you guys have a family, and thank you for bearing through and bearing with me.
Oh, that's all right. We just pushed them out in the street. They're fine.
Excellent. Excellent.
We're good.
Fresh air.
We're the same kind of hosts. I mean, we'll talk to ourselves. Sometimes we don't even notice our guests have left. Good.
Danneel and Jensen, thank you so much. Danneel, when I was trying to raise funds and awareness for my youth foundation, you just on your own chose to share your post on social media. And it was really wonderful to learn that you care so much about mental health and spreading awareness about it. And as I began to research both of you, I was just so impressed. And I can't wait. I would love to know what has drawn you guys to want to talk about sort of the mental health discussion.
Well,
I think this, excuse me, I think it is all kind of was born out of the fans that the TV show Supernatural that I work on, that fandom, we became very close with them. I mean, the show's been on for 15 years. So and we do a lot of these conventions like Comic-Con style stuff. And we really get to mingle with these people a lot. And we just found more and more often that these people were dealing with a lot of struggles, and they found a community within this fandom that was very supportive, and it just, you could see the friendships that were being bred.
It superseded the show, even
it
the
really
connection
did.
That they were making within the fan base.
Yeah, and it gave these kind of gatherings and these conventions would give people this opportunity to get together and share each other's stories under this kind of common likeness. And I started making the comparison. I'm like, yeah, it's like a car show. People go there because they're into cars, but then they end up talking about each other. And I'm like, wait, does that make me a car? And what car would that make me?
We all know what car that would make.
So, but I think the show it became a vehicle for people coming together and being able to share their highs and lows and their struggles, and mental health was certainly something that was that popped up on the radar more often than not, and so we started paying attention.
Yeah, your community and fan community. I got to talk with Misha last week, and got to really learn and witness firsthand how engaged that community is. And like you say, when people find their tribe, it's powerful. It's usually around a common interest. I felt that way with music. The music was just like a flag that kind of attracted a community, but it was a lot more about the community. The music was like just a soundtrack to the movie, to the culture of this community that was trying to figure out how to be happy, how to be authentic, how do we lead with kindness, these sort of values that galvanized us. And I've loved seeing that with your show and becoming familiar with this fan base. I know you guys are, about to film your last 2 episodes. I know you can't because of quarantine, which is wild. And this has been 15 years you guys have been doing this show. What are your thoughts on the end of the show? Not to mention, what'll happen to the community? Will they stick around? What's going to go on?
I think they will.
Look, they've always said that this is just the show that will never die. And it literally is the show that will never die. Just when we thought we were, moving right towards the finish line, this whole thing happened. And we're still in limbo. We still got back and do 2 more episodes. When it ends, I don't know. I do know that there are plans of having these conventions and stuff in the future, and get-togethers of that sort. And I don't know. I mean, how this entertainment industry works. They're probably going to try to reboot us in about 3 or 5 years. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
I wonder who'll play you. He's not born yet.
Me. I hope me.
He's not born yet.
I was just looking through my notes. It was really fun. One Tree Hill, by the way, really helped break my career. I had a song on that show, so it'll always hold a really dear place in my heart. It made a big, big difference in my career. what has it been like in the entertainment industry? I've always been sort of surprised by this paradox, and I'm curious if you guys have seen this too. I feel like the arts are supposed to stick up for the underdog. We're supposed to really help give a voice to the voiceless. We're supposed to hopefully lead thought and culture and ideas that help liberate us, that help unify us. And I feel like in artists' hearts, that's how we are. That's how we're wired. And I've always been shocked that a lot of the gatekeepers in the industry aren't like that. It isn't a very pro-female business. It's not an easy business for women to be in. There's not a lot of people of color or different cultures that get leading roles. I always found it so paradoxical because I really thought it meant in the arts, everybody in the arts would be this way. But a lot of the gatekeepers create really toxic environments. This doesn't happen just in the arts. You know, when we have a toxic upbringing and we get the ability and chance to form a community, oftentimes it will repeat the cycle. But what have your guys' experiences been? And especially, you know, you as a woman, have you ever been surprised by the paradox of that? Not even to get into a Me Too discussion, but just, you know, what it's like being in this business.
I think especially with One Tree Hill, I mean, that was very, you know, Hillary Burton and I were vocal about our experience in Variety. And at the time, you know, it was the second television show I had done. So I didn't speak up about it. I didn't talk about it. I talked about it to him. Mm-hmm. He knew about it. He witnessed some of it. And it was just, and privately, he said something to the person. But I think it's just always, for me, it was really great that it was brought to light and that we could start talking about it. But I don't really feel that a lot has changed personally. And I mean, yes, we've told our stories, but have we really moved on? Has that mentality changed, or was everyone like, yeah, sure, we'll deal with that. That's great. Let's write some articles about it and then move on. And I feel like, you know, we have to keep on it. And I like that you brought it up because we should keep talking about it. You know, it's why my girlfriends and I from One Tree Hill are still so very connected, because we went through that together as women. And the person that sought to tear us apart, all he did is make us so much closer. We probably would have never had that bond if he hadn't brought that. So
there is so much. I don't know why it exists in our industry. I'd be so curious if you have any thoughts. And if there's anybody like watching that has definitely experienced this, you know, I might be overly focused on my industry because it's the industry I know. But there really seems to be this very tolerated, very seedy behavior. And these people in power tend to just, they proliferate and nobody seems to mind it. I guess in reverse, I've also seen musicians with really bad behavior, artists with very bad behavior, and nobody disciplines them either, the managers and stuff.
But that's what it is. By the time you get to that powerful position, you've gotten there by being told yes and by being elevated, and no one sits there and says, you know, that thing you did yesterday on set, that was not you cool. Hurt a lot of people doing that. You really ought to reconsider the next time you use that voice or handle things like that. Is not happen. People just kind of go, oh, I didn't see that yesterday. You're fine. What do you mean? You didn't do anything. Just go.
Yeah, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of HR departments on a soundstage or in a studio, you know, and people, especially from an artist standpoint, they kind of get a pass, unfortunately. And you know, I've witnessed a lot of bad behavior from, you know, leads of shows or leads of movies, and people just kind of, you know, turn a blind eye to it. You know, I know this happens in every industry. I mean, you look at the news, you look at major corporations, you look at any industry, and this is rampant. I mean, look at you go back to, you know, the Mad Men days, and right. It's all over the place. But definitely speaking from my own experience as an actor in the entertainment industry, that kind of bad behavior does go unpunished quite often. And it's, I feel like it's gotten less and less because more people are now holding people accountable, or reputations are preceding them.
Right.
I think, 10, 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, people just put up with that bad behavior. I think now it's like people just don't want to work with those people anymore, so they don't have to put up with it. So I feel like there's a little bit of a correction there in this day and age, but it's still there. The bad behavior is still around. And
it doesn't have to be a part of creativity. I mean, that's
No.
When people say that, oh no, they can't talk to anybody. They have to be locked in this room and they can't, their creative process. It's like, okay, but to me, creative process should never involve bad behavior.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, she worked on a movie, and I won't save names, but the lead actress would pull stunts, like move her chair outside and away from the other actors. And it was just like girls being mean to girls. I'm like, what? How, and I'm like, what did you do? She's like, I just sat outside.
Yeah. I mean,
not going to, just
not disturbing anybody's creative process.
Yeah. If that's what she needs to get her day, then that's, I guess, what we're all going to do. And I'm like, gosh, that's unacceptable.
It is so weird that bad behavior would be so. I was really surprised. I got to do a movie with Ang Lee, and I'd never acted. I was completely inexperienced. I came from the music world, and nobody was looking at me. Like nobody. I thought everybody hated me, and I remember somebody was like, "Oh, well, this crew had recently done a movie with a really famous pop singer, and you weren't allowed to look at her, and so they probably just assumed the same thing about you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I walked into craft service, which is where everybody eats their snacks. And I have a really dry sense of humor. And so I walked in and I was like, I thought I would just make a great big joke and it would be this big icebreaker and it would just kind of let us all know, So I walked in craft service. I threw up my hands. I'm like, everybody out. And when I looked around, everybody had left. Like by the time I got done with my dramatic, but they thought I was serious. Like they literally just left the room. I was like, oh shit, that backfired. Yeah. That really backfired on me. And it took a lot of work to try and understand, my word, these poor people have not been allowed to look something in the eye. And a lot of my co-stars were not nice. They would whisper horrible things in my ear, like shocking, vulgar, really nasty on my close-up. And then they would go behind the camera and they'd say action. And I was like, holy shit. I mean, it was just sabotaging and strange. And
not witness that. That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, there's, I've heard of production managers and stuff telling the crew, telling PAs and assistants and stuff to not engage with the talent, period.
Oh, yeah.
And I found that out just talking to some of my PAs. I'm like, you didn't talk to me for the first several episodes you were working on the show. What was up? They're like, well, I just came from another show. And they were like, do not engage with the talent. I'm like, that sucks, because we're all doing this together. We're all, links in this chain trying to build a product. And
well, and everybody that goes into creating a film or creating an album, I mean, those people are all integral parts of what you're doing. I mean, you need, I don't know a lot about the sound guy.
The mixer. Yeah. You've got your mixer. You've got, you need all of these professionals. I can't do that.
And you want them to like you and your process and what you're creating. So when you have your final product, it's something that's, it's made by so many hands and it's such a...
Yeah, and you can all celebrate in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a little research and I don't know, I was thinking about how in the arts, it seems disproportionately high in terms of how many of us take our own lives, how much drug addiction there is. And so I did a little digging around and it was CEOs, people, celebrities, people in the arts or in the public eye, do have a disproportionately high suicide rate. And it's funny because everybody wants to be the CEO and everybody wants to be the celebrity, right? It's what we worship in our culture.
Yeah. If
it's so great, why are we all killing ourselves? There's really something about the pressures, the psychological pressures of being under, probably type A personalities are attracted to these types of jobs. We want to be perfect.
Yep.
Perfectionism sucks. I've been a sufferer of it. It rides you hard. It's not a kind thing. You're never good enough. It always is a self-fulfilling prophecy where you never quite arrive.
Right.
As well as the pressures. The pressure is a really extraordinary type of pressure to be under. We are expected, and acting and I think singing's easier that way. I'm allowed to go on stage in a bad mood and I can work myself out of it. I can't be mean, obviously, but if I'm sad, I can go on stage sad and I can start there and then use my songs to come. Acting's a trip. I mean, you really have to be, and what I found about it, again, I'm a novice, but my body had to live the life of my character. I'm really sensitive. I was already nervous and scared as just me, myself, because it's not a job I'm used to. And then I had to live all the fear, anxiety, loss, grief that my character was living. And so I felt like biochemically I was living two lives. I was so drained and so exhausted and so fatigued because of what I asked my body to go through, and how you have to learn to train your body to do it on the dot, on action, on go. It's an incredible skill to build up and a tremendous amount of pressure. What are your guys' thoughts about, our mental health in this business? Is there stigma? Have you guys run across other celebrities? I actually know that you, Jensen, had helped somebody that had depression and you were there with them in their trailer. What are your experiences with this and sort of the pressures of the business? It's funny, it's not something we talk about a lot in our job because we do feel grateful and we get to do something we love. Sure. And it makes us feel like we also don't then get to talk about the hardships of it and what make it really difficult.
Yeah, it was, for me in dealing with the few people that I've had that in my life that do struggle with this, I always try to just bring perspective to it. It's, I think when someone suffers from these situations and these conditions and this illness, they can get so focused on what is creating that problem that they can't look outside it and they can't back away from what's making them feel what they're feeling. And so I just tried to do that. I said, listen,
love you too.
You need to step back and stop thinking about, this glass and look at this whole room and how beautiful this glass is in this room. And let's talk about all of the people that love you and all of the people that want you to continue doing what you're, so look, I'm no therapist. I'm no doctor. I just try to be a good friend.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, if you can surround yourself with people who care about you, then you might not go too far down that rabbit hole the next time it comes calling.
But in this business, that is a very hard thing to do.
It is. And like you said, Joel, that, when you are working essentially outside of yourself, when you spend 12 hours a day on a set portraying a character that is going through grief and through, the ups and downs of storytelling. And, when you're playing a character, you're not playing just the quiet moments generally, because that's not dynamic storytelling. You're playing the big, heavy emotional or the action sequence or, the love story or whatever it is. You're playing all of these highlights of life.
Yeah, all the high points.
Yeah. And so to deal with that, it's difficult. I know that when I've had heavy emotional scenes, when they yell cut, the body doesn't just stop, because you've now told your body that this is what we're going to feel because something real is happening. And even though your brain knows that it's not real, you're telling your body to believe that it is. And, there's been several occasions where I've had to just walk off set and walk it off. And that's tough. I want to come back and be like, okay, did we get the shot? Good. Okay. All right. I'm going to go walk to my trailer for a minute. And that's tough, but I take pride, I guess, in knowing that I was able to tap into something for a creative purpose, and I felt something real. And for me, I would imagine that's probably something that you get to feel on stage where you're singing. There's a real feeling that you get from that. And I think for me, that's, those are the things I like to hang my hat on.
Yeah, it really is it's a privilege that we get to explore. Like, our job is we have to explore emotions. Yeah. Like, becomes our job. So we end up getting very emotionally literate, while the pressures of the job increase, our anxiety can really increase. I don't know about you guys, but like as you start to get more famous, when I had a hit, I was like, holy crap, I didn't mean to write a hit. I have to write more hits. What if I never write a hit again? And we can get fired at any time. You don't get the next job. We don't have a job security, as it were, as an artist. And so there starts to be this sort of we have a high emotional awareness and high emotional intelligence. And we also start to get a real, anxiety that starts to come with the job. Have you guys experienced anxiety in the job? I'm really wanting to help people understand that everybody goes through anxiety, that we talk about cleaning our teeth and dental hygiene and physical hygiene, but we really don't talk about good mental hygiene habits, good habits like brushing your teeth that help you have a better experience, because we all have this brain locked in this box. We experience the world through feelings and through thoughts. Not every thought and feeling is accurate. What are good habits? And have you guys experienced, everybody does, anxiety with your workplace and in your life? And have you guys found any tips or tools that can help people?
Well, I battle with anxiety constantly. I probably, like a lot of people out there, I recognized it as like a flight anxiety when I got on planes. I have since learned that is just one little thing that it would bring in. This is JJ coming in.
Hi. My son would die to come in the room. Get him in here.
Okay, go tell her not to.
Take your time. We're in no hurry. I made your parents run late on top of it.
Apparently her sister punched her in the eye.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for telling us. We'll come in there.
Don't punch back.
The 3-year-old's tough. Hey, can you close it?
You dealt.
I did, and it was
especially for somebody who flies quite a bit.
But it started when I was working a lot. I was working on One Tree Hill. I was flying. I lived in LA. We shot in North Carolina. I was flying back and forth about once a week. Mm-hmm. Then I started dating this guy, and he was up in Vancouver. And, we didn't have kids, and I would take these all-night flights just to hang out with you for a day and then fly back. And it kind of started then. I got another job and I was working, and then it hit me like I have to keep flying places to go to work. And I don't know why that stuck. I wasn't afraid of flying before, and it just became this thing that was overwhelming, where I wouldn't even audition for things because I thought, no, I'll have to fly to do that. I don't want to do that. I mean, it was just really powerful and terrible. And then I noticed it started creeping into other areas of my life. Anything that, especially after I had and I don't know after you have a child, then I just started obsessing over, I need to be so careful. Nothing can happen to me, not for myself, but for my kids. I can't, and I have struggled with that a lot. And,
well, especially with this, with COVID, she's asked me multiple times,
again for,
she's like, we're not going to get sick. Right. Like, and she literally needs me to say the words.
I do not need him to tell me the truth at all. Please do not. Please.
I just simply say, we're not getting sick. It's not going to happen. But
I've allowed myself, I think, for the first to really talk about it to myself and say, you know what? Yes, you're having a panic attack. That's okay. You're going to be okay. It is a panic attack, and I do that. I have about 1 bottle of Ativan that will last me for the rest of my life. My doctor's like, take the pill, put it in your pocket.
Just knowing you have it can be really helpful.
And 99.9% of the time, don't ever take it, because I just know it's there, and I've given myself this permission, because I am an absolute perfectionist. And I think that really, my mom's like that. She's got a lot of anxiety, and it just, I got it too. And, but that's really helped me. It really has. Just giving myself permission. Like, yes, this is a problem and you have it.
Yeah. I started having panic attacks, I think when I was about 16. I didn't know what they were. It started hitting me. I went away to school. And, you think you're dying. They're horrible. If anybody watching has never had one, they're really awful. They're real. Your whole body goes through these. It's really intense, very visceral. And when I was homeless, they really ratcheted up again, of course. And I started to like really experiment. I was having so many of them. I was able to start like trying different things during different ones. I finally I started practicing this. I didn't think I really knew the word meditation at the time, but I have no idea if this will help you. And I am not a doctor. So this is from a folk singer. So take that with the 5,000 grains of salt. But I learned when I was in the midst of a panic attack, I could have awareness. That took a long time to get there. I'd be in the fetal position, full crying, the whole 9 yards. And I would imagine I was on a really stormy sea, which wasn't hard for me to imagine because that's what my panic attacks felt like. And I would then become very like absorbed in my, imagining it, the crashing of the lightning and the waves and the smell of the lightning in the air, that electrical smell, and really experiencing the darkness, the quality of the air and how pitch black it was, and the waves, the whole 9 yards. And then I would fall backwards out of the boat into the water. And the second I hit water, it was quieter. It was calmer. There wasn't the noise anymore. And then as I started to fall backwards through the water, I'd see the color of the water change. It sounds so silly, but this is what I did. I'd see the color of the water change. It'd go from really that dark, murky black to kind of a blue to a light gray to really pretty turquoise, those really pretty greens. I finally would hit the bottom and I'd have my back against, I'd feel the sand. I was magically breathing. That seemed to never come up. And I would lay there. And usually by the time I would taste the salt on my lips, and this is all imagining, but I could get my imagination to make myself smell it and feel it and taste it. And by the time I got through all those colors in the water and down to the bottom, I was usually pretty calm. And then with more practice, and this took a lot of practice, I was able to ask myself questions. What caused that? I didn't know the word trigger at the time, but what caused that? And I would see the answer. I would know it. I don't know how to describe it, but I realized it happened in class. I walked into a class where I didn't know anybody. Not knowing people makes me feel really unsafe. And I had so many panic attacks and I had to go to the bottom of that visual ocean so many times. I really started to learn that when something felt out of control, when I felt unsafe or too vulnerable, I needed to create a whole new level of self-care. And I didn't have friends. I was on my own and moved out at 15. And so self-care was kind of a trick for me, but I developed things that helped me feel anchored in. And I just learned that if there's going to be something in my life where a major pillar, I call them pillars, if I'm moving houses or if I'm starting a new job, or if there's just some change, a real pillar, if one or more was changing, I knew I was very, very prone. And so I had to create support. I would start calling a friend regularly or whatever it was. And then with time, I do not have them anymore. I've always struggled with anxiety. I do think perfectionism just tanks us. I hate it. I am such a perfectionist. It's an addiction. I call it an addiction.
I mean, I look back at things in my life, and if I wouldn't have just, it's got to be this, then I wouldn't have been where I am today. I wouldn't know you. You can't live with it. You can't live without it.
Our house wouldn't be so clean.
It's so clean. The spoon drawer wouldn't be organized like it is.
Oh my gosh, Jewel. The spoons and the forks are all lined up perfectly.
But you will never pull out a baby spoon when you mean to pull out a big spoon.
No, you won't. No. Of course, she's got me doing it because I'm like, I don't want to be the one to ruin this.
Yeah. And what's sad about perfectionism is we think it's going to protect us from hurt, and then it ends up hurting us. And that's not cool. The thing you put in charge of not hurting you and protecting you ends up hurting you. I realized when I became a mom, I was like, my perfectionism here might make me utterly tank, because this is the one thing, right? We're most perfection about the stuff we care about the most. You care about that kid the most. They deserve us to be perfect, but you've never done it. You're not going to be an expert at it. You haven't built up a lifetime of craft or education. And so you inherently know on some level, we're going to fail. We're not going to be perfect. And that either brings out a new whole level and a whole new gear of hypervigilance and perfection that can absolutely tank us. I see so many moms struggle with it. I don't really hear a lot of moms talking about it, But that's when I had to develop like an entirely new practice dedicated to perfectionism. I don't know, again, if this would help you at all, but I've really, when I sit down, I meditate and I practice in the morning, I'll really, especially if I notice I'm getting really triggered, and I'm not always a perfection. It really does seem to come up when, again, some major pillars changing in my life, my anxiety will rise, or when I really care about something. And recently it's been getting really triggered again. And I have this phrase, I have no idea if this will help you, but I'll just offer it. I sacrifice my attachment to perfectionism and I dedicate it to, I use compassion, because I'm not very compassionate. Usually perfectionists aren't. We think that we got where we are because we write ourselves and it's all whip and no carrot. And that's what got me to perform. What if my talent did it? What if it wasn't even my perfectionism? What if my perfectionism was just my way of handling my anxiety of worrying if it would work out? What if it was just my talent did that and I didn't even actually need perfectionism? So my compassion is so lacking. I really, really suck in the compassion department. And so for me, I say I sacrifice my attachment to perfection and I dedicate it to compassion.
No, that's
and then I have to practice it, so when I find myself, I go, I want to get uptight because somebody isn't as perfect as I think they should be. And I get really uptight and like, kind of, I guess, controlling, probably. Sorry to say I am. I go, I'm going to sacrifice my attachment to perfection. I'm going to get compassion. And it's really helped. I don't know if that'll help you, but I've really found it to be transformative for me.
Good. And this, the COVID, the quarantine experience has been, I can't, and one of my things is like, everything's in order, everything's super clean. And I have, this is big for me. I let my kids draw, there's chalk all over the side of our house, which that is so far removed from anything I would normally allow, that he came home and he walked in, he was like, oh, okay. Wow. Let them draw on the actual house. Okay. And I'm like,
and then I'm like, come on, let's go find some more walls, guys.
he's like, that's great. I was like, yeah, they wanted to. And I was just like, sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. Any gains we can make like that.
I think it'll power wash off, but I hadn't.
We'll get it off.
Yeah. We might have to repaint.
I'll get it off for you.
We might have.
Yeah, you can paint. It's really true. COVID is really bringing up a lot of mental health issues for everybody. It's why I wanted to start this show. There's the virus, then there's the economic fallout, and there's the mental health fallout. When I was doing some numbers, I actually wrote them down. Our suicide hotlines are up 300%. Our mental health crisis hotline is up 891%. Suicide attempts typically double during a recession, or nearly double. And that's never been during a recession with a pandemic and isolation involved. Mental health, we could lose more people to suicide than possibly to the virus. And I really appreciate your guys' willingness to talk about it, because this is, if you're not feeling anxious during this time, you're disassociating. I feel like this is an anxious time. How we perceive control, how we perceive we keep ourselves safe are being stripped away. And we realize we're not in control and the world isn't sterile. And germs, we don't live in a sterile environment. And so what do we do with worry? What do we do with, I call it a misuse of creativity, right? I'm pretty creative. If I'm this creative, I can be this worried if I channel it all into this. And so I really had to learn that when I'm worried, I have to use my creativity in a better way, to not imagine all the worst possible scenarios. And when you're highly creative and imaginative, you have a real talent for being really worried and imagining all your worst case, world ending scenarios. And so again, I have to sit in my practice meditation and go, I dedicate my worry to a better use of my creativity, to using practical, good, responsible actions. And then that's really all we can do. And so where do I want to put my creativity? Maybe this is the time I learn to do something I never learned, or gain a new skill, or whatever it is. But it's really bringing this up for people. And I know we're all going to come out of this one of two ways: more pathologically anxious, or transformed in some way where we've learned to become more resilient. And so I just feel like being able to have this conversation is giving people the permission, the helping normalize the conversation of, okay, what are good habits? What are good practices? Do you guys mind answering some questions and talking to some folks?
Yeah.
Would love it. Let me look through here. This is how high tech we are. I take, my friend texts me the questions.
Perfect.
See, I'm going to read through them. Oh, we have 2 live people. Yeah, let's do live questions. Go ahead and bring on, we have some live people in the waiting room that will come through. We can actually see faces. With a few awkward pauses. What else can I do to make this awkward? I could pick my teeth. I could. I don't think I have any water.
Jensen and I made mugs over COVID-19. This one's mine.
Okay, it's perfect. I hate you. Wow. That's really good.
Yeah, mine was so bad, I didn't bring it out. So.
I'm like, there's your mug. Go get it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we have someone on. I don't see a name. I apologize. Would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I go by Gamer Siren on the internet.
Hi, Gamer Siren.
Hello. Hi, Jewel. Hi, Danneel and Jensen.
Hey.
I had a question for you guys. I've noticed that you have a lot of content online with the kids and stuff, but since you guys are quarantined, how do you get to spend time, like maybe with yourselves or with each other, and maybe not so much with the kids because you are quarantined?
Do you have kids?
No, I don't have children.
Oh, got it.
I'm just curious if, like, because I understand that kids are a huge part of everybody's lives when they have them, and as much, but people do in general still need some me time.
Mm-hmm.
We actually haven't had a lot of that.
I think it kind of comes in little bits.
Right now?
Yeah, right now we do shows with Jewel so that we can have some me time.
This is it.
No, it's I think she and I are intuitive enough to know when she needs to, hang in the bathroom or in her closet or in the room a little longer and she knows when I maybe need to sleep in a little for a few extra minutes, and she'll go handle the first disasters that are happening in the morning. So I think she and I just kind of take turns letting each other have a little peace whenever we can. But for the most part, it's, we're in the weeds. I mean, we've got a 7-year-old, almost 7-year-old, and we've got 3-year-old twins. So
wow.
it's a lot. It's
wow.
A lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we do, we do know, we can feel when someone just needs to have a little extra time to themselves. And that's really all we can do at this point. I mean, I wish there was some amazing thing that we had.
Well, and for us, it's a really unique situation because Jensen's been in Vancouver and he came home and we literally went into lockdown 2 days later. Well, no, I was already shelter in place and he got here. And so that was it.
Yeah.
Literally after 14 years of you being gone all the time.
Wow.
Like, hi.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
that was our schedule. It's 9 months out of the year.
Joel, we need a therapist to live with us.
Crazy. That's a trip.
It's huge. I mean, for our entire relationship, I have been commuting back and forth. So I'm gone most of the year.
So our kids are like, that was just the whole quarantine. I mean, they're
loving it because they get mom and dad all the time.
Attached. Like this has never happened. And I am a very honest person on my Instagram and on my, that is my one thing that keeps me is I have to be authentic. So I will say that yesterday, our nanny, who was our godmother of all 3 of my children, came back for her first day because she has been quarantined and she's more than a caregiver, really. Like my children have cried for her every single day. I mean, it's
like an attachment figure.
Oh,
yeah.
It's family. And so she's here right now, full disclosure. And we're being very safe. But I just always want people to know, like, I don't do everything by myself. It's impossible. So all the moms out there, yes, we have a person here that's helping us. That is a privilege and it's wonderful, but it
finally got to a point where I was crying for her.
Yeah. He was like, please, Julie.
We finally reached our max. No, but before yesterday, it was, we were.
This is the first
7,
time
8 weeks.
This is the first time we have been alone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a trip. When I was married, we had completely separate schedules, and there was a time where he quit roadie, and when I came off the road, and it was like, you're still here.
What?
It was kind of a
Not
trip.
leaving.
We had to really adjust to different rhythms. I like time alone. I enjoy my time alone. So that is a trip. That's a trip. I can really relate to the adjustment of that.
Yeah, it was swift.
Very swift. Luckily, we're figuring it out, and it's it's been cool. It's been fun. I mean, sure, not the days.
We've been together a long time. I think our 10th anniversary is coming up, and we were friends for about
5 or 6 years before that. So we've known each other. We've been pals for quite a long time. So getting to hang out has been a pleasure, not a curse.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating that when we're in a relationship with something, we have to evolve. Whether even nature, we have to evolve to stay in a relationship to nature. We have to evolve to stay in relationship with our partners and with our children. We're constantly being asked to evolve. And I do find that fascinating about this time particularly, is we're being asked to evolve quickly to stay in harmony with nature. Yep. We're being asked to evolve quickly to come to a new normal with our families and living in close proximity. So it's never boring. And it is a constant evolution, and that dedication to evolving in relationships, I just find very, very admirable. We have one more question, and I know you guys need to get back to your kids. I just wanted to answer. Let's see. I'll take one more question. Let's see. Do you guys doing one more live question?
Yeah,
let's do one more live question for fun, and then we'll wrap it up.
Cool.
See if they're around. My son just snuck into the room. If you heard the dog barking.
We have to put our dog in here because he will not.
Yeah, he wants to be in here with us, so he'll bark if he's not in here.
He was with us when we first started dating, so he's been around a while.
Aww, that's so sweet.
Hey there.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm a bit nervous. It's 1 a.m. and I wasn't expecting this. So I'm a bit
verklempt, a bit Twitter-pated.
Yeah.
What's your question, and what's your name?
My name's Kate, and my question is basically because none of us know when this is going to end. There's no end in sight. I sort of had these feelings of hopelessness and feeling like it's never going to end. And I'm just wondering if you've had any of those kind of feelings, and if you have, how you've been dealing with them.
Thanks for asking that. Yeah. You guys?
Well, I've definitely had those, and I'm much more of the person who will stay up all night reading every news article. I know really don't do that, guys. It's not a good idea. But I am that person that does that, and I called my dad and found solace in the words that he told me, and it was this world has been around a long time. These things happen, and this too will pass, kind of a talk that he gave me, and it will. I mean, we are strong people, and I know we'll come out of this okay. And then I have this guy, and I'm like, right?
Yeah, I certainly fall into the more positive outlook on things. Tell
her what you told me when this first started. I'll tell you something. I was in the grocery store. I was in an unnamed big chain grocery store when this whole thing started. Mm-hmm. And it was like no mask, no but we all knew something was coming. So I was like, I better go to the grocery store. And it didn't occur to me what the grocery store was going to look like. I don't know why. And it was scary. People were grabbing stuff. I mean, so I finally get to the checkout, and the lady's checking me out. And I don't know if she just sensed something about me that she needed to do this to me, but she called me in closer and she said, "You're not buying the right things." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" She's like, "You need to buy more non-perishables." And she just started getting in my head, and the person that I am.
What else? She was like, "Go to the bank, take out all your money.
All your money.
Oh, wow.
You need to get to the country. You need to get out of the city.
Where do you live?" I was like, "In town." "Oh, that's not going to work. You need to move out to the country.
Get your children and go."
She's like, "And just start laughing right now like you know me, so I don't get in trouble with my boss." And I was like, "Oh, God, why is this happening?" And so I go to the car. I am a mess. I'm really thinking this is the end. I haven't prepared properly. I'm going to let my kids down. We don't have a bunker in Kansas. This isn't going to go well. And I get in the car, and this guy just calmly, he's like, "Danneel,
I said you have to have more faith in humanity. We're better than that. We will. We always survive.
You were like, you're going to hear amazing stories. This is before we saw the amazing stories. He was like, you have no idea how amazing this whole process is going to change people.
Yeah, it's going to test people, and there are going to be amazing people that rise to the occasion, to the challenge. And I mean, clearly those people have been, health workers for one, and there's been so many. And yeah, I don't know. I was like, you got to have more faith in humanity. People are going to shine because of this.
So I would say concentrate on that.
Yeah.
There's Instagram, Tank Good News. There's a couple of these really just inspiring social media. I've cleaned out my social media, and I'm only looking at things that are positive and happy and that don't cause me to judge myself. That's important.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I call it staying off of fear porn. Like, stay away from the fear porn. Like, I don't watch the news. I get all my information from medical websites and government websites, because what we put in our bodies affects our immune system, and what we put in our eyes and our ears, what thoughts we ingest affects our immune system too, our stress levels, and everything changes. It's just life. That's the good and the bad news. I had such a difficult, turbulent life. I started to really take comfort in the fact that nothing is forever. This will change. And while we don't get to choose how long this experience lasts, this is out of our control. We get to choose what it does to us. And so in that way, we're not a victim. We're not powerless. We get to choose what type of experience we're going to have. And so for me, asking myself provocative questions like, what do I want to get out of this experience?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to get out of it? Are there thoughts, beliefs, habits that I've always said I'd let go, but I never had time? Well, guess what? I have time. Are there things that I wanted to learn? Because guess what? I have time. And can I act on those? And when I get out of this thing, we make bargains with God or with the universe saying, if this ever ends, can you create an actionable plan? It was interesting. The way I like seeing it is in times like this, we're going to introspect. There's two paths. Hopefully the good path is introspection, letting things go, taking on new thoughts and beliefs, and then acting on them. And that gives us wisdom. That's the best case scenario this time. To me, the worst case scenario is we don't introspect, but we suppress. So we suppress our thoughts, our fears, our feelings, no introspection. We don't let go of old beliefs or things that don't serve us. So we hang on to them in fear. And then instead of being rebirthing, having new thoughts, new ideas come in, we feel disempowered. And instead of acting on them and gaining wisdom, we feel doubtful. So people either introspect, let things pass away, grab onto new things and have wisdom by acting on them, or will suppress, have fear, feel disempowered, and live in doubt. The option is ours, but one of those two things are happening for all of us. And you can completely introspect and use this as a really productive time. And I really believe just knowing that is really helpful, and this will pass for sure. And you're so right. It is bringing out a lot of the beautiful things in humanity, Jensen. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for taking the time. And I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to get to know you both. And I hope to be able to get to know you in person soon.
For
yes,
sure. Yeah.
We love that.
Thank you. Keep doing what
Thanks,
you're doing.
guys. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
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 Everybody stick around.